Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining Calvet and American River College for Legal Services. Before we begin, I just wanted to see if Robert Smith wanted to come in and introduce himself and say anything before the webinar starts. Are you there, Robert?
I am. I cannot open up my video, and I guess that is fine. So thank you for that, Jennifer. So I guess on behalf of the Veterans Resource Center at American River College, I want to thank you all for joining us for the CalTAP webinar on California legal services. For those that are joining us across the state, American River College is in Sacramento and is part of the Los Rios Community College District. It's one of the biggest community college districts in California. Our Veterans Resource Center is a one-stop shop for all of our veterans and their families in attendance at American River College. And of course, we've partnered here today with CalTAP and their amazing team to help provide information and resources to our student veterans and their families. And of course, you all here in May, sorry, I have a little frog in my throat. You all in attendance. With that, I'll go ahead and pass it back over to you, Jennifer. Jennifer?
Thank you so much, Robert, for what you do for the American River College and for what you do for all the veteran and service member community, so military community. So thank you so much, and thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go. So my name is Jennifer Rudquist, and I am a training coordinator for the California Department of Veterans Affairs. And before we begin, I would like to make a disclaimer that we are recording this webinar, and by logging in, you are agreeing to be a part of that our recording. The recording will be on our website and on YouTube so that you can watch it or share it with others who may benefit from the information presented. Just a little bit about me really quick. I'm a veteran myself. I am a military spouse. I'm the mother to 3 active duty members, service members, and also I was a military brat growing up. So I can safely say that I've been in all of your shoes. I can completely relate, and I want to take a moment, and Calvet wants to take a moment to say thank you for all that you guys do and have done to support the United States military. We understand, the uniformed or not, that you all served. And I want you to know that Calvet and all the organizations here today are truly passionate about getting resources and benefits to you. Please reach out if you have any questions at all, or you have anybody that you know that needs any type of assistance. I'm excited you guys all joined today's presentation because it is packed with great information and resources that I know are going to make a huge impact on your lives. Presenters today include Cole Wagner. He is Calvet's local interagency network coordinator for the Northern Valley area of California. We have Mo with the Swords of Plowshares. And lastly, Michael Monk is here. He's another CalTAP training coordinator. He's on the back end under CalTAP questions, or calvet/CalTAP. He will be in the chat putting in different resources associated with the items that we are going to go over today and topics we're going over today. He also will be in the Q&A tab where we ask that you guys put all of your questions in there. Now, all the panelists will be in the Q&A answering those questions, and also Michael will be in there answering questions. Now, at the end of all the presentations, we're going to go over all those questions because we know that if you have that question, other people probably have the same question. So it's really beneficial for us all to take advantage of the Q&A section of our presentation. So let's get started with the CalTAP overview. This is meant to give you guys a snapshot of the benefits and resources available to you. Our goal is to get your feet wet with the benefits and acquainted with where the benefits are and how to get to them. Now, CalTAP, so what is CalTAP? You've heard me say it quite a couple of times. The state of California, just like the military, use a lot of acronyms for everything. CalTAP stands for the California Transitions Assistance Program. It is designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras of their earned federal and state benefits, as well as provide continued support and assistance as your needs change over time. We like to say that verbatim because we want you to know that we understand that your needs are going to change over time. Things that you need today, you may not need tomorrow. And things that you need tomorrow or 10 years or 20 years from now is not what you're needing now. So the things that we're going over right now, you may not need, but keep in mind, you can always come back to us. We want to provide you with 24/7 access to 5 different pathways to your benefits through our website. Now, those 5 pathways are core curriculum, education, employment, entrepreneurship, and service providers. Service providers are for, this pathway is for those service providers like Swords to Plowshares. A lot of the videos are made from Swords to Plowshares that kind of give a background and more insight to the type of things that military and veterans and their families go through on a day-to-day. So we've given you quite a bit of information, and it can be information overload, but we want you to know that we are here for you guys cradle to grave, and we want to keep on supporting you. And ways that we can continue to support you guys include, we can email you. So if you provide your non-DoD email address to CalTAP at calvet.ca.gov, we can make sure that you guys get newsletters once a month, and any type of, if there's any type of changes in the state, any benefits in the state, any benefits for federal, we can send those out to you. If you register for My Vet on the website, that's another way we can connect with you also. And then you can add CalVet on your social media. We have those right there, those QR codes for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube is a fantastic resource for you guys. This webinar is being recorded. It's going to be put on YouTube on our CalVet channel. So you guys can go there. You can see this webinar. You can see other webinars on housing, on employment, on entrepreneurship. There's so many amazing webinars, recorded webinars on there. We really highly recommend you guys go to that. And then attend webinars, and then fill out today's survey. Today's survey, here's a QR code for it. You don't have to do it right now. I'll be putting this up later on in the presentation also for you guys. This survey, we collect the information from these surveys to improve our presentations with the ultimate goal of providing military service members, veterans, and their families with the most beneficial information and wraparound support. So please fill that out. You don't have to do it right now. We'll give you the QR code at the end also. So here are those 5 different pathways on our website. So you can access all the different benefits and such to you. Now, also I've circled down at the bottom, that is archives. So you can look at all of our previously recorded webinars on there. And if you look a little bit farther down, you'll see the upcoming webinars right there. All the way to the right where it says My CalVet, you can log in and you can register for your CalVet account right there. So let's just go, this is a great list of benefits available specifically for veterans in the state of California and their family members. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go through all these benefits in detail, but if you have any questions, please give us a call. Please email us. We can address all of your questions in detail so we can help you access these benefits. So this is our Veterans Resource Book. You guys, this thing is like gold. I was out of the military for 20 years before I finally got myself to a county veteran service office. Somebody said, you got to go get your benefits. You got to get your benefits. Everybody told me I had benefits, but nobody told me what they were. So when I finally went to that county veteran service office, I came in there and I said, hey, I'm here for my benefits. And they said, well, what are you interested in? Well, you don't know what you don't know. I was like, I don't know. What do you got for me? And they handed me one of these. This is the CalVet resource book right here. This has all of your federal and state benefits in it. It's like gold, you guys. I have turned that book into this. I've tabbed out stickers everywhere with all those amazing resources. I was blown away by it. Get your hands on this. Michael's in the chat right now. He's going to put that link in the chat for you guys to download that bad boy. Share it with as many people as you can because it is seriously amazing. You can even share it with people out of state because there's those federal benefits right in there. So it's awesome stuff. The last thing I want to go over is the va.gov website. This is a really great central place for you to go to access benefits for health, for your records, for your education benefits and your disability. Everything is just a click away. So check out va.gov. All right, I went through quite a bit of information, but like I said earlier, please give us a call, email me, connect with us on social medias, and we will definitely answer all the questions that you have. This is the portion where I'm going to hand over the floor to Cole Wagner. He is a fantastic local interagency network coordinator in Northern Valley region of California. Are you there, Cole?
I am here. Thank you, Jennifer. So as Jennifer said, my name is Cole Wagner. I'm the local interagency network coordinator, or LINC, for the North Valley. My position here at CalVet is to I always like to break it down by saying the LINC is there to connect veterans to resources and to connect resources to other resources. Just as a brief introduction, I'm an Army veteran, Iraq and Afghanistan veteran, and I still currently serve in the Army Reserve. So if you hit the next slide, please, we'll talk briefly about the LINC program. So the LINC program, again, Local Interagency Network Coordinator, is designed so that there is a local person, a point of contact that lives in your region and works in your region, that understands the veteran benefits that are available in your region. Everybody could probably understand that there are certain statewide and nationwide veteran benefits, but there are also additional, often local services and resources that are available depending on where you live. And so the LINC's job is to help people that live in that area to get access to those resources, local, state, and federal, that can help them throughout their lives. So if you're not necessarily zooming in here from somewhere in Northern California, there is the LINC map on the screen, and there is also the LINC map in the chat, so you can download it. And it has the contact information for the LINC in your area. So again, somebody that can help you kind of navigate these different veteran benefits and how to get access to them. Next slide, please. So some of the things we do, again, outreach to service members, veterans, and their families. Much like this, we're out there teaching veterans and their families how to get access to their benefits and where to go to get help, making referrals and working with service provider networks. So working with folks like American River College Veterans Resource Center, helping them get connected to resources like Swords to Plowshares, and making sure that veterans and their families are getting the best possible service. Next slide, please. Some of the folks that we work with are like on the employment and training side, the Employment Development Department. Another state employment program for veterans is called Work for Warriors. We work closely with them. We work with the county veteran service offices on the local level. We work with our VA regional offices, with the CalVet personnel that work in those regional offices, and also the federal personnel. And then also we work closely with the VA medical system, so the medical centers, hospitals, clinics, and the VA vet centers for counseling services. So, and again, not on the screen, but we work very closely with the veteran resource centers at all the colleges and community colleges throughout the state of California. Next slide, please. So this is my contact information. Again, feel free to call me. That's my cell phone number. It's right here sitting next to me on the desk. You can call me or text me, or feel free to email me. Again, even if you're not in my region, which is, you know, kind of far north California, you can always send me a message or send me an email, and I'll get you connected to the person who works in your area. Always happy to help and serve veterans and their families. And I'm excited to be here today. Legal services, another great, useful topic that I hope to get more information out about for veterans. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jen.
Thank you so much, Cole, for everything you do. You are so incredibly knowledgeable. You are always ready to answer any of my questions and anybody who I refer to. So thank you so much for what you do. It is so appreciated, and I have so much gratitude and appreciation. With that, I'm going to hand the floor over to our next presenter, Mo, from Swords to Plowshares. It's fantastic presentation about discharge upgrades. Are you there, Mo?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great. Thank you, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. My name is Mo Cedar. I'm the legal director at Swords to Plowshares. I direct the legal unit. We're a team of 7 attorneys and 2 support staff who help veterans with their VA benefits claims, primarily service connection claims, and character of discharge determinations, which I'll talk about briefly today. And then our other practice area that we help veterans with are military discharge upgrades. And so I'm going to talk to you all today. Hopefully this topic is of interest to those in attendance today, and some of this information is going to be helpful. I'll start by saying if there are any veterans on the watching today or in the future who need any legal assistance with their VA benefits, who are San Francisco or Alameda County residents, we are a resource to you. And in terms of those needing discharge upgrade assistance, we have a sort of a larger catchment area in Northern California. So we are able to serve veterans needing discharge upgrade assistance as south as Santa Cruz County over to Stanislaus, San Joaquin, Sacramento County, Napa, Sonoma, and all the ones that are inside there, like Contra Costa, San Mateo, San Francisco, Alameda. So if you are in need of discharge upgrade assistance and you are a resident of one of those counties, please reach out to us. My contact information is going to be at the end of the slide, but our number is 415-798-8387. Again, 415-798-8387. Okay, with that, let's get started. Next slide. So I'm going to talk to you today about discharge upgrades. And so what is a discharge upgrade? It is a procedure whereby the military branch where the veteran served may change the veteran's narrative reason for discharge, character of service, and their RE code, their reentry or reenlistment code on the veteran's DD-214. And there's also the possibility of changing other elements of one's military record, but for the most part, those seeking discharge upgrades are trying to get those 3 pieces of information changed on their DD-214. And so typically it's for folks who got a general under honorable or other than honorable or bad conduct, dishonorable discharge, and getting that upgraded to ideally a fully honorable discharge. And so if one is successful in this process, which I'll talk about today in detail, the outcome is a newly issued DD-214 that reflects that corrected information, that hopefully honorable discharge, and a change to that narrative reason of discharge and the RE code. Okay, next slide. So before we delve into the sort of nitty-gritty procedure of how to get a discharge upgrade and what the boards are looking for, I just want to take a moment to talk about the population of vets who get less than honorable discharges, because I think there's a lot of misconception out there that, these people just, commit misconduct and they're, not good folks and they deserve what they got, et cetera. And that's frankly not my experience advocating for this population of veterans for many years now. And the statistics also sort of don't bear out that narrative. So between 2000 and 2013, more than 600,000 service members received a less than honorable discharge. That's roughly 1 out of every 4 veterans. And there are a lot of correlations that we're finding between the population of vets who get less than honorable discharges and mental health. So if you were diagnosed with PTSD on active duty, there's a study that showed you are 11 times more likely to have a less than honorable discharge. And why is that, right? Because symptoms of PTSD tend not to be conducive to military law and order, right? You have trouble regulating your mood. You may have developed a substance use problem. You may have sleep disturbance that's, making it difficult for you to do your job well, things like this. So there are a lot of symptoms of PTSD that folks experienced while on active duty that are perceived as and documented as misconduct in their record. There's the issue of retaliation from having reported military sexual trauma. Those who've reported an incident of sexual assault or sexual harassment in the service are 35% more likely to be given a less than honorable discharge. There are significant disparities by branch. So the Marine Corps is 10 times more likely, Marine Corps by tenfold give out other than honorable discharges than the Air Force. So if you served in the Marines, you may have a much higher likelihood of getting a less than honorable discharge that's potentially going to get in the way of employment prospects and your VA benefits and the like. And then in addition, we're seeing the DoD use less than honorable discharges at a rate higher now in history than ever before. So you're 3 times more likely as a post 9/11 veteran to have a less than honorable discharge than the Vietnam era vets, and 6 times more likely as a post 9/11 vet than a World War II vet to have a less than honorable discharge. So it's a mechanism by which DoD is basically quickly administratively separating folks to get out of the service, and to the detriment of the veterans themselves, as this is a barrier when they separate to, like I said, employment, VA benefits, and the like. And then lastly, I want to implore that the impact race has on this process, right? So there's a study that Protect Our Defenders did a number of years ago. This is a nonprofit that works on veterans issues, and they found that particularly Black service members had a very disparate treatment in the military justice system than their white peers. And as a result, were much more likely to either face court-martial or be found guilty of court-martial or be given non-judicial punishments versus their white peers for comparable misconduct. And of course, as you know, your chances of getting a less than honorable discharge are very tightly linked to whether or not you've gotten NJPs or court-martials. So unfortunately, veterans of color, in particular Black veterans, have a much higher rate of less than honorable discharges than their white peers. Okay, next slide. Okay, so getting into the discharge upgrade process. So within every branch of the service, there is both a discharge review board and a board for correction of military, or for the Navy, naval records. The one exception is that the Marine Corps and the Navy share the boards. So if you're a Marine Corps veteran, you would be applying to the Navy Discharge Review Board or the Board for Correction for Naval Records. But other than that, the Coast Guard has both a DRB, a BCMR, and Army has a DRB, BCMR, et cetera. And so these are the 2 boards within your branch of service that have the authority to issue discharge upgrades. So they're different entities within the branch, and they have different authorities, which I'll talk about today. But in terms of figuring out if you need a discharge upgrade today, do you apply to your branch's DRB or your BCMR or BCNR? And so how you answer that question is, first, you look at your date of discharge. If you separated within the last 15 years and you want a discharge upgrade, then you would be applying to the discharge review board of your branch. And that is a very strict deadline of 15 years from the date of separation on your DD 214. Okay, so if you separated more than 15 years ago, you would be applying to the Board for Correction of Military or Naval Records. Now, something to note, and this is getting a little in the weeds, but it's important for those who are going to be going through this process to know about, is that if you separated more than 15 years ago and you're applying to the BCMR or BCNR, there is in fact a 3-year deadline to apply to them. And usually that statute of limitations clock starts from either your date of discharge, if you were recently denied at the Discharge Review Board and you're appealing that decision, or the actual discovery of the error or injustice. Now, the majority of the clients that I'm seeing at Swords to Plowshares, they separated, let's say 25 years ago, they've never applied for a discharge upgrade before. It's certainly been more than 3 years from their date of separation, but they're beyond their 15-year deadline to apply to the DRB. So what do they need to do to get the BCMR or the BCNR to acknowledge their application and basically get past this 3-year deadline that they have? Well, this statute of limitations is easily waived in the interest of justice. And so what you would do is, if you are in this position of being more than 15 years, you would just need to put something in your application, and there's a space on the form that says that in the interest of justice, you want the board to hear your application, despite the fact that it's been, more than 3 years since you got out of the service. And they easily waive it. You just have to make sure you mention this on the application. So typical reasons why is I didn't know about the discharge upgrade. I recently, attended a webinar and an attorney told me about this process, and that's why I've never done this before. And essentially, in our experience, if you mention some reason why they should waive it, they will. So just something to note. Okay, next slide. All right, so the discharge review boards, right? So this is the entity for folks who separated within the last 15 years. They have the authority to change your discharge status. So for example, from OTH to honorable. And the exception to this is unless it was based on a general court-martial conviction. So that's your felony level UCMJ court. So if it was a general court-martial conviction that got you separated, you cannot apply to the discharge review board. You have to go to the BCMR or BCNR. DRBs have the authority to change your narrative reason of separation from, for example, pattern of misconduct to what they normally change it to, which is secretarial authority. That's sort of the default standard, what the boards would change your narrative reason to. The one exception for the DRB is they can't do that to medical retirement. And then they can change your reenlistment code, but only if it's accompanied by a change to your discharge status and narrative reason. So if you have an honorable discharge, you ETS'd and that's your narrative reason, and you just got an RE code 2 or 3 for an injury or something like this, and you need a waiver, then you have to go to the DRB or BCMR to get that RE code changed. But if you got an RE4 with a pattern of misconduct and an OTH, then you can include your RE code to be changed in your application to the DRB. But again, it has to accompany the request for a discharge upgrade as well as a narrative reason for separation change. Okay, next slide. All right, so that was the authority that the DRB has. So what is the authority of the BCMR or the BCNR? So basically, it's everything that the DRB can do. They can also change your character of service from a general court-martial. They can change your narrative reason to medical retirement. They can review your discharge upgrade denial from the discharge review board. So if you were unsuccessful at the DRB, you can appeal that decision to the BCNR. And they have a wide authority to change pretty much anything in a veteran's record. Things to note that they cannot do. They cannot expunge a court-martial conviction. They cannot review applications that could be brought to the to the DRB. So what that means is if you separated 5 years ago and you want a discharge upgrade, you have to apply to the DRB. The BCMR will not entertain your application. And then they won't award any monetary damages. I get this question a lot from clients. I want to be medically retired. I want to go back and get all those benefits from when I should have been medically separated or retired years ago. They don't have the authority to issue monetary damages or monetary payment. Okay, next slide. All right, so can you click over to, there's some animation on this slide. One more, perfect, stay there. Great, thank you. So this is the discharge upgrade application. There might be some links provided, but if you Google DD293 or DD149, it's the first link that shows up in Google. But essentially, this is the discharge upgrade application, right? So if you're applying to the DRB, you use the 293. If you go to the BCMR, it's the 149. So at a bare minimum, the application for a discharge upgrade is going to include that application form and a copy of your DD214. But I want to be super clear. If all you submit is those two documents, your chances of success are pretty low. So in order to really up your chances of convincing the board that you are deserving of a discharge upgrade today and that they should correct your military record, here's some other evidence that we suggest you include with your application packet. And again, an attorney could help you through this process. Absolutely, there are attorneys all over the country who do this for pay. And as I mentioned at Swords to Plowshares, if you're in one of those counties that I mentioned in Northern California, you're welcome to reach out to us and we'll get you an appointment with an attorney. All right, so what is this other evidence that you want to include? A personal statement by you talking about why did you join the service, discussing what was the nature of the misconduct that happened in service that led to the less than honorable discharge, and an explanation for it. So what was the mitigation? What was the reason the misconduct happened, right? Did you just come back from a deployment? You weren't doing well? Did your spouse just leave you? Did someone who was close to you pass away? What was the hardship? What was the thing that you were experiencing when your, work performance, your change in behavior, whatever was happening happened. And then what have you been up to since you got out, right? What good things have you been doing, contributing to society, working, raising a family? What are all the good things you've been doing since you got out of the service that you want the board to know about? In addition, you want to provide copies of relevant military records, medical records, or mental health diagnoses, if that's relevant. A timeline of major events can be very helpful, especially if you're trying to show, you served good, you did no misconduct, and then something traumatic or difficult happened in your life, and then you had a decline in work performance. So sort of playing out, showing them that timeline of events is very helpful. And then evidence of positive character, getting character reference letters today from employers. If it was a drug or alcohol related offense, evidence of sobriety, anybody in your life who can attest to, all the great contributions you either made in service, buddies you served with, or today in your life who can say great things about you. And essentially you put all this together and you send it off to the DRB or the BCMR for the branch that you served. Their address is on the application form. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about evidence that you can include, but first I want to explain to you all what is it that the board is looking for in all of this evidence. So next slide. The grounds for the board that the board has to grant a discharge upgrade are equity or injustice, propriety or error, or clemency. So equity and injustice are, sort of comparable terms. Or, think of them as the same. They just have different language depending on the entity. But this is the vast majority of cases. And so what do I mean by this? These are the cases where, yes, the misconduct happened, and we're not disagreeing that I tested positive for marijuana. We're not disagreeing I got the DUI. We're not disagreeing that I was AWOL for 5 months. It's just that justice today requires that despite that misconduct, I be given an honorable discharge, because I was experiencing mental health problems at that time. I was experiencing PTSD at that time, and that, excuses in part that misconduct. Or that was going on with me at the time because of that hardship, but now I'm in therapy. Now I've been sober for 2 years. Now I'm, making all these positive contributions to society. So as a whole, if we look at all the good things I did in service, we consider the hardship that I was going through at the time and all the great things that I've been doing since, justice or equity require that I be given a better discharge status than the one I was given on that day of separation, right? So that is, like I said, the vast majority of the arguments we're working with sound like, look like that. Those are the successful equity or justice arguments. Now, another grounds or reason that the board has to change your discharge status or your narrative reason for separation is propriety or error. And what I mean by that is that the DOD committed a legal error or didn't, behave correctly in separating you, that they should have, taken certain steps that they didn't follow their own procedure or law when separating you. And had they followed that procedure and law, then you would have gotten a better discharge status than you got. And then clemency is the last one. That's for folks who got BCDs, bad conducts, or dishonorable discharges as a result of a court-martial conviction. And if you have a BCD or a DD, you would be arguing for clemency. But the arguments for clemency often look very similar to the equity and justice arguments, but it's called clemency because what you're asking for is clemency from that court-martial conviction as opposed to an administrative separation that was like an OTH or a general discharge. Okay, next slide. All right, so quickly, some guidance that came out in the last few years. There's been a few different memos that have been issued to the discharge review boards by the DOD, and basically talking about if the board in the application by the veteran sees that there is a causal link between the misconduct and mental health struggles at the time, and that can be PTSD, traumatic brain injury, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, any other kind of mental health condition, and includes military sexual trauma, sexual harassment, sexual assault. If they see a link between the veteran's mental health struggles at the time and the misconduct that led to the less than honorable discharge, that veteran's application will be given liberal consideration. And essentially all that means is that they have a much higher likelihood of succeeding in this process and being finally issued a discharge upgrade. If there isn't that mental health link, your chances of success in this process, to be frank, are not great. But if the board sees that there is that connection, you have a much higher likelihood of success. And so I say this because it's really important in that personal statement that you're going to include and in the evidence that you include, that if this is your situation, that you make it super clear to the boards that it was a mental health struggle that led to that misconduct. And you write that out explicitly in that statement, and you provide the mental health records that sort of corroborate that account of what happened. Because like I said, if you can present that evidence successfully, that's going to really up your chances of success in this process. Okay, next slide. All right, and then lastly, just some other bits of evidence that might be helpful to include: employment or school records, community service accolades, mental health or substance use treatment notes. If you have a service-connected mental health condition, or you've been found honorable for VA purposes and eligible for VA benefits, despite a less than honorable discharge, all of that would be helpful to include. A clean rap sheet, again, letters from friends, family, fellow service members who can corroborate your account of what happened. I had a client whose father died in service, and he was actually murdered. And we presented not only the death certificate that corroborated the sort of timeline of events of when the misconduct started, but news stories from a newspaper and the obituary. So things like that to sort of corroborate the hardship or corroborate your account of what happened. And then we'd like to include a photo just to personalize the application for the panel who are going to be making the decision about the discharge upgrade. Okay, next slide. All right, so I've kind of already said some of this, but I'll quickly review. The arguments that we have found have been successful in getting somebody a discharge upgrade. Again, if there's that mental health link, if they sought treatment or help for that in service, they sought mental health treatment in service. If there's post-service mental health or sobriety, mental health treatment or sobriety, if they served in combat. And then again, if there's service connection that's been established by VA for that mental health condition. Things that aren't convincing: if there's no hardship, if there's not been any trauma or event in service that kind of mitigates or explains the misconduct, that's pretty unconvincing to the boards, unfortunately. If there's a lot of pre-trauma or pre-hardship, substance use or misconduct, that's pretty unconvincing. So it's harder to tell the story that the misconduct is related to the hardship, right, if there was misconduct beforehand. And then failure to participate in treatment and service, it doesn't look good to the board. All right, next slide. Okay, now I want to very quickly, I want to be mindful of time, but I want to talk about sort of this alternative that I've mentioned a couple times in my presentation already, this alternative to discharge upgrades for those with less than honorable discharges who are motivated to get that discharge corrected in order to obtain eligibility for VA benefits like healthcare, service connection, home loan, etc. So this is a process by which the VA can find a former service member to be eligible for VA benefits despite having that OTH discharge or that bad conduct discharge. So it's not going to change your DD 214, but it's going to establish your entitlement and eligibility to VA benefits despite that less than honorable discharge. Okay, so let's talk about this process real quick. Next slide. All right, so there are 6 different discharge statuses you can leave the service with. If you got one of the ones in green, your discharge status is not going to be a barrier to eligibility to VA benefits. So as long as you've established the other criteria of entitlement for home loan, healthcare, et cetera, they all of course have different criteria, but just know that if you have one of the green ones, your discharge status is going to not be a barrier to getting you VA benefits. The one exception to this is GI Bill, which requires a fully honorable discharge. But if you're service connected and might be able to get in voc rehab, that can help pay for education with a general discharge. So there are some other education benefits out there for folks with generals, but that's the folks in the green. Now, for folks who have an uncharacterized due to void enlistment or dropped from their roles, OTHs, bad conducts, or dishonorables, the VA essentially has discretion as to whether or not to let you in the door. So it's their call. They get to decide, okay, you got a bad conduct, but we're going to still find you eligible for VA benefits. And so I'm going to talk quickly in the next slide about, how they make that determination. It's very similar to the discharge upgrade boards. But the one thing to note is that if you were convicted by general court-martial, which again is at felony level UCMJ court, and as a result of that, you were issued a bad conduct or a dishonorable discharge, there is a statutory bar to getting VA benefits. There are some exceptions to that. If you were found insane at the time of the misconduct, or you have an earlier term of enlistment, but for the most part, that is a statutory bar to VA benefits. But if you have an OTH or a bad conduct from a special court-martial, which is your misdemeanor level court, or an uncharacterized due to void enlistment, though those are less common, then the VA really has a lot of discretion as to whether or not to grant you eligibility. And this is something that we help clients with all the time at Swords to Plowshares get eligible for benefits at VA despite having that OTH or BCD. Okay, so next slide. All right, so what does the VA consider in these character of discharge cases when they're trying to decide whether or not to, for example, let an OTH vet in the door and grant them service connection and healthcare? So this is all going to sound really similar to what the boards look for in the discharge upgrade application, but is there any mitigation or explanation? Trauma, family hardship, some compelling circumstance that excuses the AWOL period or the drug use, etc. They want to know the nature of the misconduct, right? Are we talking about 2 positive drug tests after 3.5 years of service? Or are we talking about, a violent assault that happened during boot camp, right? Like those are going to be treated very differently. So they want to know what the nature of the misconduct is. They want to know the frequency of the misconduct. Again, is it 1 or 2 minor things at the end of an otherwise lengthy, laudable, time in the service? Or is it, getting in trouble right away when you showed up and it's been, sort of peppered throughout your military record is all these pieces of misconduct, so they want to know that length of service is considered the quality of the service outside of the misconduct. Did you do good things in the service, before the misconduct happened? Officers are treated more harshly in this process. We find anecdotally than enlisted folks. And then did the misconduct happen during deployment? That is also viewed harsher than if it happened stateside. And something to note is that unlike the discharge upgrade process, where they care about what you've been doing since you separated, in the VA's process, they only consider the behavior and conduct from the date of entry to the date of separation. And so that can be a good or bad thing in the sense that you could just have gotten out of prison serving, a felony sentence, and the VA doesn't care, and it's not going to be part of the factors that they consider when establishing whether or not you should be eligible for VA benefits. It can be a bad thing, though, is, if you started a nonprofit and you're a mentor and you've been doing all these great things for the veteran community since you got out, also none of that would be considered either. So it can go both ways, but just to know that what the VA looks at is just what's in the military record. All right, next slide. So usually this eligibility determination is triggered when a veteran with an other than honorable, a bad conduct, dishonorable discharge applies for VA benefits. And so it's submitting an application for service connection or pension, or if you present to the emergency department at the VA healthcare facility, the VHA, the VA Healthcare Administration, can also trigger this character of discharge determination. You have the ability to request a hearing in these processes, which we often do at Swords. This is something we're often doing because it helps personalize, again, the veteran to the adjudicators. And then personal statements, again, are essential, right? Telling your story, explaining the misconduct, and then any corroborating evidence, similar again to the discharge upgrades, you want to put that forth in your character of discharge application. Anything good to support your case, and to explain away the misconduct the VA is going to want to see in that application. And just know that if you applied in 1980 and you got denied your character of discharge and you want to try again, you absolutely can. So the VA gets this wrong all the time. There's a lot of misinformation about this, but 100%, the law is clear. You can go back and reapply and see if you can get eligible today, even if you have a previous denial from years back. All right, next slide. Final note about multiple enlistments. So if you join the service, let's say I have this hypothetical, we'll use Maria. If you join the service, 4-year contract, it started in 2000, and you were, supposed to separate at the end of 2003, right? And then let's say in April of 2003, so you're about like 9-10 months out from, that's not right, 8 months out from getting out, you decide to re-up, right? And you sign another 2 years, right? And then in June of 2005, you get a DUI and you're kicked out with an other than honorable discharge. What happens here is you are typically, the service member is typically issued one DD-214 for this entire enlistment period, right? Because it's back-to-back conditional discharge. And it says OTH. But what the VA does is that they will parse out your terms of service, and you may be eligible for VA benefits based on your first honorable term of service. And what the way they do this is that they look at your original enlistment contract, and they'll see for Maria here, it was 4 years. And they'll look, okay, in those first 4 years, was there any misconduct? No, there wasn't. She did great, right? It wasn't until that second part, right, in 2005, after her original enlistment contract, that she got in trouble. And so Maria, in this case, would have a fully honorable term of service. She would get GI Bill benefits for that, healthcare. She can get service connected for any injuries that arose during that period. And then that second term of service where she got the DUI, she may be eligible. That's going to be up to the VA. And hopefully there's some explanation or mitigation for why the DUI happened, and maybe the whole thing can be found honorable. But just know that first term of service will be honorable and will be treated as such by VA. All right, next slide. All right, so we've got some self-help guides on our website at Swords to Plowshares. The website is right there, that basically run through step-by-step both the discharge upgrade process I talked about today, and we have one on the character of discharge determination process at VA. We also have ones on requesting your court-martial records, military records, writing PTSD statements, getting friends and family to write statements. So there's guides on our website for all of that. And then next slide. All right, great. That was it. I wasn't sure. I thought that was my last slide. I wasn't positive. All right, so please go visit our website. Self-help guides are up there. And then here's my contact information. And again, if you live in one of those surrounding counties to the Bay Area in Northern California, and you need help with discharge upgrade, 415-798-8387 is our intake line. All right, so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to field them now.
All right, let's go with the questions and the answer section. I did not see anything in the Q&A, but we'll ask Michael. Michael, did you see anything?
No, there really wasn't much in the Q&A. So in the regular chat, there was about probably like 2 or 3 questions. So we can go up here and just start with the first one. And I don't know if Mo already answered this one, but it's basically in regards to, racial disparity and unfavorable discharge. So is it just a black and white issue? And then how about those who are not black or white?
Yeah, so the Protect Our Defenders report found that there were some pretty glaring disparities, in particular for Black service members. There was a Government Accountability Office report that had more information about other, Latinx folks who were experiencing racism. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that there was not racist disparity or mistreatment against other minorities, racial minorities in the service. It was more so that the statistics bore out that Black service members in particular were really mistreated and misrepresented in the criminal justice system in the military than white service members when compared to white service members.
Okay, and the other one was basically, do they have wills for married couples, and then if they wanted to have like separate wills, like for legal services? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that is not my area of expertise. And so what I would say is a lot of the bar associations in your county will have referrals to estate planning attorneys. So I would reach out to your local bar association. I believe there's an organization, a national organization called Wills for Heroes, that I have heard of. I don't have experience with them, but they do wills for, I believe, veterans and first responders. So that might be a resource to check out.
Okay, so thank you very much. The next question here is, how hard is it to upgrade a entry-level performance and conduct?
Entry-level performance and conduct. I mean, I think what maybe they're asking is like, how hard is it to get a discharge upgrade for somebody who separated pretty early on in the service, maybe got an entry-level separation, I'm not sure. But it really depends on the facts, right? It depends on what the misconduct is. It depends on if there's any explanation or mitigation for that misconduct. So it's pretty fact specific. But you know, the thing I'll say is that if you only served for a short time, there's likely not a lot of evidence of what happened. And, you know, there's not a lot of like good periods you could compare to a smaller bad period, things like that. So it can be trickier.
Okay, and the next one here is, if I'm interested in upgrading my discharge, are there any free legal services in Southern California?
Yes, there are a number of organizations in LA County, Public Counsel, Inner City Law Center, and I believe Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles all do discharge upgrade work. And there's the Veterans Law Institute in Orange County that also, I believe, does discharge upgrade work. And there's a Veterans Legal Clinic at the, I believe, the University of San Diego. Professor Robert Muth runs that clinic. And I believe they do discharge upgrade work as well. So hopefully you live somewhere in there. I know it's very difficult for folks who live in San Bernardino and Riverside and other counties to get legal services. There's a lot of concentration in the urban areas. So hopefully you live in one of those counties.
Okay, so the next question here is, if service member receives an honorable discharge, but RE code is not favorable, does that affect the VA benefits? Can the RE code be changed?
It does not affect your VA benefits eligibility. And yes, you can change your RE code. But if it's because you got an honorable discharge, you would be applying to the Board for Correction of Military or Naval Records for that request. And if you are separated, just as an FYI, under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and you got an honorable discharge and an RE4, you do not need to get that corrected to re-enlist today. You just have to go to your recruiter and they know to ignore it.
All right, thank you very much. The next one here is, I have a other than honorable. I tried to use a SCM, but it is in the reserves. Can I still use your services?
It looks like you got a special court martial from the reserves, maybe. So I'll say this, I have never helped somebody with a discharge upgrade who only served in the reserves and doesn't have like an active duty DD 214. So you can certainly give us a call and we can give you some advice and guidance on what I think that process would look like. I've just never personally advocated for a veteran, for a client who got an OTH just from the reserves and doesn't have a DD 214.
Okay. It looks like that's about it here.
Okay.
Jennifer, do you see anything else?
Yes, I do see one. It says, I have had a few DD 214s through my career, but my final from the reserve was other than honorable.
Yeah. So yeah, so essentially that in that case, you're likely not wanting to change your DD 214 because you like, it sounds like you got probably honorables for your active duty time, and then it was your final reserve separation document that has an OTH. So again, apologies, I just don't have any expertise or information about that process. I imagine it looks very similar, but I just don't want to give you any misinformation. So I don't know how to correct a reservist separation document that has an OTH. But yeah, sorry.
Thank you for everything that you do. And this has been so informative. Honestly, it's incredible. All the different, it can be complicated. So it's really great that they're, even if you can't like actually help somebody with their specifics, at least you can show them the process of how it works and the type of, the process that you'll have to go through.
Yeah.
So we really do appreciate all this information. Someone did put in the chat, Discharge Upgrades Veterans Legal Institute in Tucson, California. I'm going to put that in the chat, that information.
Great.
And I'm going to put it to everyone right now. And then somebody said, thank you for everything. So,
oh, and one more thing, Jennifer, I'm sorry. If it's okay, there is one other resource I just want to point people to that I should have remembered earlier. So let me just put this in the chat. This is a link to the discharge upgrade referral page at Swords to Plowshares. So this lists out organizations across the country who do discharge upgrade work. The ones at the very top of the list help folks nationally. So regardless of geography. So if you live in Riverside County, if you live in Yolo County, like you can get served by the ones at the beginning of the list, and then the rest go by, and there's a section on California of different organizations that do it in California. So, and if you have friends, in West Virginia and Maryland, et cetera, refer them to this list too. But that's another resource.
That is fantastic. Wow. Thank you so much for putting that in there. That definitely helps. I know quite a few people. So
yeah.
Right now up on the screen, we have a post-webinar survey. Like I said earlier, please take a few moments to complete this. We really do value your feedback. We want to use that data to improve our webinars and ensure we're providing you guys information that you guys are going to need. So please fill it out. Let us know how we're doing. And we'll definitely input that. Michael just put a link to our other recorded webinars. And this is our upcoming webinar slide right here that we're showing. We've got one on the job market, competing for today's job market, promoting healthcare and older veterans. We have presumptive conditions, which is really great to know about all those different conditions, maybe linked to Vietnam, maybe linked to burn pits, all sorts of good stuff there, good information, and benefits and resources to assist veterans in retirement. So next month's theme is going to be for our 360 webinars are going to be based on veterans in retirement. This is again our QR codes for all of our social medias. Get to that YouTube channel to get all those previous recorded webinars. I'm going to look one more time to see if we have any questions. Michael, did you see anything else come up?
No, that looks like it.
Great. Okay. Well, I want to say thank you so much to all of you that are attending today, whether it's the information's for you or a loved one, or maybe it's just information you just want to get so that you can share it with other veterans or family members or such. So thank you for attending. I want to say a special thank you to Cole Wagner and to Mo for presenting today. So much fantastic information. You guys are such huge advocates. Thank you for Swords to Plowshares for everything that you guys do too. The advocacy is amazing. It's really good to know that somebody's on your side. So really great stuff. Thank you, Michael, and have a fantastic day, everyone. Bye-bye.